So I'm not going to massage. Well, you could say it this way. Well, if you said it that way, you'll get a bonus die, all the time. Um,
Yeah.
and so but they, if I
But
say
what
to
about
them,
after?
right
Like after
afterward,
it's all
right
over?
after it's all over, I like to wait to see who wants to learn what. A person might never say anything, and yet I can see their behaviors changing, their engagements changing, as they go along, and that's fine. Or somebody is like, man, this is the thing. They bring in what they think is going on. They'll say something like, "You are a fucking master." I mean, the climax of that, I never saw it coming. I never saw the way it could have developed like that. I mean, that's amazing. You are. I never saw you tweak a die roll. How did you do that? And I
Yeah,
say,
there's no point
because,
listening to
right,
compliments.
right. No, but that's the point. It's a misplaced compliment. They have to eventually gather, and frankly, it's very hard to tell them because they don't believe it, that you weren't doing any such thing. You were just honoring what was going on. And it was everybody's shared passion and interest in what was happening and their input that we were all enjoying. The fact that they were doing it that actually produced that because we're humans and we like stories.
Right.
Right. And so that's where it came from. And so the trouble is, now again, we're talking about how to teach that. How much unlearning is involved? How much learning is involved? What is it in your experience? Is anything you've said that actually does this? In my experience, it is actually to focus on, this is how we do it. This is how we do it in play, and let the verbal comprehension come later. You see, because a person coming to me saying that, and I hear that kind of thing a lot, when they come to me and say that, their nonverbal comprehension is actually very well advanced. They realized that there wasn't railroading. They realized that there wasn't this kind of nanny control over what's going on, but they can't bring themselves to say it. Everything they've been trained to do tells them that that's impossible, so they can't say it, and they don't get it. Right? They're verbally, it's not there, but they wouldn't be talking like that unless non-verbally they were getting somewhere.
Yeah.
Right. So therefore, best to say, let's keep playing. And it's sometimes it's a year later. Like a year later, the person will say, "Fucking hell, you're not railroading this at all."
Of that which we cannot speak, let us therefore be silent. Fuck
Yeah,
you, Wittgenstein.
yeah, I know, but it's very much however, again, this is very frustrating to some mindsets, but it is true that blithering away at the technically correct answer or explanation doesn't always serve the learning. And it doesn't mean you're trying to guess my secret, It's
Well, because
more,
I think
it's just
that
like,
depends on the mind.
it really does. Mm-hmm.
I'm looking for a thing that's okay. You can probably tell by looking at just the mechanics of chords. It's trying to do a couple things, and it sits in a place where I call it a hybrid, consciously and promotionally, because part of what its mission is, like it's a secret mission. I want to see it as kind of like a gateway drug to more narrativistic play for people who feel comfortable with trad systems. You've got 6 stats. Everybody has D6s. Look, it's a roll over, roll under thing. Hey, man, you know how to do this. And then the GM is taking it places that GMs aren't usually told to go, and you end up improvising on a level you never improvised before, and before you know it, baby, you're a narrativist now.
Well,
We've converted you.
we're grading it. I hear you on this. I have thoughts that may be or may not be interesting to you, but those are going to go into these bullet point system stuff that I mentioned before.
Uh-huh.
Or that I mentioned that I had, and you said you would prefer in bullets, and that makes sense.
Oh,
Um,
well, that's why, like, it ties into what you were just saying,
it does tie
because
into
I
it.
am
It does
because I
tie in.
am
Yeah.
because I don't visualize
Mhm.
much. I am semantic symbolic.
Mhm.
So for me, like, I'm really happy with a wall of text. I'm a pig in shit if you give
Mhm.
me a wall of text.
Mhm.
But I know that most people don't like the wall of
Right.
text, and
Actually, I
and
really
even the people
appreciate that. That's so amusing. I feel the same way. It's
and
like it's a wall of text. And I'm like, yes, it's there for you to read.
yes, exactly.
You're
That's
welcome.
I appre
You
I'm the
know?
guy I've got 20 tabs, I've got the text as small as I can make it because I want more info is always good. More
Mhm.
information is always good. But
Let's
I'm
go. Let's
weird
go
or
back to
something.
these methods though, because there's two
Even the
sets of methods,
people
right?
even the people who are fans of my games or even the people who are running my games haven't read those long essays in the back of
Mhm.
the book. Those are long,
I know.
man.
Let's go then with the understanding of that is that let's just take it as a given here that you would like actually for somebody sitting down with your book in their left hand and their pencil and dice in the other with, I mean, obviously not going to be at the same time, but sitting there with the people at the table with them, and what they are learning to do is they are learning not to be in control, and for them to demonstrate to the others, perhaps without blithering about it, that they are not. Because anybody can say it. Anybody can say, oh, yes, the players are free to do what they want. 99% of the people out there that I've met who blither about that are lying through their teeth. They may believe it, they may not, but they're lying. So it's no good for them to just tell the players that. It's only important for them to demonstrate it and play in a fashion that scaffolds themselves and everyone else into doing that.
I hear you, and I like
That's what I'm
that a
saying.
lot.
This is a big deal.
But
That was last
I wanna
minute.
point
It's
out
huge. Yeah.
but I wanna point out here that, I do hope that Core is I think it is, flexible enough so that each table,
Mm-hmm.
each GM, maybe even each campaign world, um, can sort of draw the Harper line at its own place. And
Absolutely. Absolutely.
once the
Mm-hmm.
once the GM
That's
sort of
required.
establishes where that is, then the players just get used to it. Whatever it is, they get
Mm-hmm.
used to it.
That I think is critical. That is part of it, is that this is not an automated mechanism. This
Mhm.
is
Mm.
not a story widget, and which is the problem with the entire culture of design that came out of that website, Story Games. They make widgets. They make automated little widgets, and they are no fun. They just aren't.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, you see how object oriented the whole fucking thing is. I make widgets too, but I'm like doing some HR Giger thing, right? Okay, because I'm making widgets, but the input is human and the output
Mm.
is
Let's
brain chemistry.
right. No, I hear you, but please understand what I mean by widget. What I mean by widget is a can opener. It opens cans, and it will open cans for whoever grabs it, hooks it in, and spins the wheel, and the can will be open. Many of
Right.
these, many of the games that we see published are set up to do the same thing. A set of orangutans could sit around and they will get a story out of it if they do these procedures. The story will spit out of it. This is
Yeah.
John
We
Harper's
talked
design
about
in a
this last
nutshell.
time. And even
Right,
when playing AD&D,
right.
when you look back on it, even if you died, you always get a story. I mean, duh, you
Mhm.
always get a
Right.
fucking story.
Hmm. Well, the I'm not talking about story just meaning fiction in place. I'm talking about some specified arc that has certain properties. So playing the game guarantees that you'll get the thing of the thing. Now, this is representational and it is transitive. The game designer is, giving the game the leader, the organizer, GM or not, the organizer of the game, this kind of junior executive director entertainer, right, role. Right, senior executive is the game designer, junior executive is the person presenting it and perhaps GMing it, and everybody else is the adoring audience who gets their hand job. Oh, Liu's just like Star Trek The Next Generation. That's so awesome. Right, or whatever. And we're done. Okay? But you and I are not talking about widgets of this kind. You and I are talking about what you just said. Humanity touches the thing has properties, brain chemistry in its interaction with it and with each other produces another thing. And if it
Right.
is conformist to the inspirational
The fully
material, then
mechanized,
that's what they wanted. If it's
right,
not, then
and
that's what they
like I
wanted.
was saying before,
Whatever.
the fully mechanized, inhuman, automatic roll on the falling damage table on page 188, that's always there. That's what I called the safety net earlier. Maybe it was a bad metaphor, but what I'm saying is, you know, that's not where I play from.
Mhm.
That's where I know I can fall back to if something breaks,
You know
but
what the fallback is that I'm criticizing? The fallback that I'm criticizing is not a table of falling damage or whatever. The thing that I'm criticizing as an unwanted safety net is that you'll fix it if it goes wrong. Nanny at the table will fix it though by spinning the way it's narrated, spinning what you can and can't do, spinning what's there or isn't there in a fashion that simply manipulates toward the funnest outcome that that person wants.
I think because the system is what I call jittery, right? It has that car on the rails. It goes a little to the left, a little to the right. It's never exactly in the center. Um, that's designed to forcibly inject shifts in narrative control.
Mm-hmm. Let's take away the word control. Let's say
I
input.
know.
Yeah. Let's say
Okay.
input because
So in a
again,
way,
yeah. Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
when you're rolling the dice in core, you may be in combat, you may be in a negotiation, whatever the hell you're. It doesn't really matter what you're rolling for, because even if you're in combat, you're not really rolling to see did I hit him. What we're all really rolling for is like, how well did I do, and who's going to end up
Right. What
with the narrative
impact does
agency.
this have? What impact does this have? How are things changed? And
Well, also, am
right.
I going to end up with the narrative agency or you?
Well, let's clarify that a little bit as well, because that is a useful and interesting thing to happen. Who gets to talk? But let's
Yeah.
not overinflate that. This is the pool has been horribly, horribly misread and used. They overinflate that monologue of victory as if that's like the fucking GM for the day, God for the day, and I control. I've got the stick now, fucker, right? That kind of thing. And
Yeah,
the
that's the one thing in the
right.
pool that I don't like. I
Well,
don't
you know
get it.
what?
I
Because
don't.
it doesn't have to be there. It's just a bunch of toxic
Okay.
behavior people have stuck into it. I have a whole class on this, man. 10 fucking hours of exercises and homework before people begin to understand what that thing can do. All right? I mean, it's work. You have to fucking work as a team building exercises classroom to learn this.
Well, yeah,
So,
because it's a little wisp of a thing. I'm
I
hoping
know.
to give people more bones to
No,
play
I
with, more
no,
Tinker
I hear
Toys.
you. But what I want to drive at, I hear you on that. But what I want to drive at here is that if there's one thing that is taught, and if this is what you really mean, if you mean it and it's not, because I don't know. I mean, I trust you, but that's an emotion. I don't know that you really do this. That when we play, that if you never take away, I mean, if you will always give me enough context so I know what to do, what's the right thing to do here, if you always give me enough outcome so that I get the beat that I was clearly hoping for, or if I don't, then I get a compensating thing, right? Oh, I failed. Oh, but there's a plot twist. Oh, I failed. Oh, but I get this other clue. Oh, I was seizing for this clue. I missed it. Oh, but
Yeah,
you get this other one, right? All this
yeah,
fucking
no, but I
manipulative
don't.
shit,
I
right?
don't advise that anybody
Right,
follow even the Harmon Circle. I don't
right,
advise that anybody follow any narrative skeleton
right.
religiously or
And
rigidly.
notice, however, that there is a means of play in which you create that skeleton yourself, tap dancing in front of whatever the players do instead of presetting it. And and then you'll give yourself credit for saying, "Oh, I never railroad," when you fucking laid the tracks like Gromit in front of their feet, going wherever you want the whole time.
Yeah, but a minute ago, you said something like the right way or the correct way, and I winced. And the reason I
That's why,
winced is
and you
because
should. Yeah. No, you
there's no
should.
right way.
You absolutely should, but do not underestimate
I
the.
see this as an object-oriented simulation.
Mhm,
The GM is the processor who maintains much of the illusion, but its purpose really is the character objects and the
mhm.
stories that arise out of them and around them.
Uh,
I don't
mhm,
I don't not only do I not have a story, but if I end up because I get nothing from, let's say I've got players who literally give me nothing, and I don't have any players like this, but
mhm,
let's
mhm.
imagine I've got 3 players and none of them are giving me a goddamn thing, and I just end up pushing them through some kind of little railroad and bringing in, okay? And they go, "Wow,
Mhm.
great, it ended at the mark, da da da. That was fun." I feel like shit.
Exactly.
I just
Exactly. Okay, Todd, I am now feeling much more confident that I can point to things in your prose and your system which are actually working against what you just said.
okay.
Less in the system, okay? Don't get me wrong. There's no. We'll go over this later, okay? But it's not. Don't get the idea that I'm coming after you with an axe on this system. But there are things to talk about for this. But
Yeah,
here,
and at a
right,
certain point, I wanna dump the current state of the system on you.
right,
You've read
right.
some of my GM's text.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, I have 100 pages of that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I believe it. I believe it. Yeah, I know. Let's go then to. But now I hope you can see that the endless explanation and making sure. Oh my God, a person could misunderstand it that way. I better fix that. Oh no, they could misunderstand it that way. I better fix that. And you're an enthusiastic explainer, so therefore you're kind of going to get inexhaustibly wrapped up in doing that. You know, and it's madness, as you've already said.
Yeah,
So, with this perspective in mind, instead, the idea that what is the minimally most important things that a person can be inspired to do, and also trained somewhat to actually share so that everybody else gets that this is what we're doing.
right.
That is going to be a much more experiential thing, and I'll point you to the discussion on Adept's Play, but a fellow named Sam has had a lot of experience with this, and he has been very clear, and I agree with him. You don't do it by patronizing the people that you're playing with. You do it by validating their input, whatever it may be, but also the consequences based on us doing it the way that the game works. And
Sure.
he points out that the worst thing you can do is keep telling, keep like making sure the new player is having fun by continually basically baby feeding them and
Mhm,
continually giving them like funsy and good and special opportunity, and oh, this guy, he's your best friend, he tells you about this, and all this kind
mhm.
of like inclusive stuff.
Well,
The person knows, right?
this game wants to get so deep into your psychic content
Right.
that it has multiple trigger warnings.
Right, I get that, which is very important, because new people like that. New people want to do that. New people are honest with themselves that they like this sort of thing and want to do it. Role players are by and large pretty fucked up and blocked in regard to this very thing.